welcome to our policy session, how policy can relieve the social causes of distress and improve mental health. So it's crunch time, folks. As we heard yesterday, this isn't just a session where we get to know each other and share some important facts and information. The University of Exeter actually want ideas, and I'm sure that some of you in the room will also want ideas. Hello, my name is Heather Henry. I'm mostly a nurse. I'm a frontline nurse based in Manchester, and I'm a Queen's nurse, and I work in equal partnership with people and communities. I describe myself as the nurse that doesn't nurse. I no longer fix people. I no longer offer services to people. And what I do is look at their capabilities, their strengths, and hopefully to be able to set the right context for people to learn and grow in the ways that we've seen some of the communities and individuals presenting at this conference. My background's primary care. I had a small dalliance with chest and heart nursing, which I'm interested in again now. But my background's primary care. I've been a practice nurse. I've been a director of primary care, and I haven't touched a hospital in anger since 1989 because I believe that hospitals are for repairs, and the community is the place to be. I'm focusing here today. At this event, we talked about what's wrong around mental health an awful lot, but we have heard the voice of what's strong. And that's wholly what I'm interested in, to try and balance up that glass half full, half empty. So way back in 1994, Ivan Illich remarked, I believe that it's time to state clearly that specific situations and circumstances are sickening, rather than people themselves are sick. The symptoms which modern medicine attempts to treat often have little to do with the condition of our bodies. They are in fact signals pointing to disorders and presumption of modern ways of working, playing and living. So what is modern life like? And I'm going to give some examples from Salford Poverty Truth Commission, and from the work of fathers in Salford and Rochdale that I've been involved in. And I want to talk about the story of a former offender, a former armed drug dealer. He's one of 4 that I know. But mostly to talk of him as a father, because when you look at men through the lens of being fathers, then you see a completely different picture and you get a completely different response. And I'm going to talk about his journey from being that drug dealer to where he is today and the support that he received. And I do a little bit of spoken word poetry, so forgive me if I give you his story in the form of a poem called The Other Side of the Street. I remember what it was like on the other side of the street. Bloke kissing his wife, getting in the car, kids off to school, sitting round the table for tea. An ominous figure, gun in one pocket, stash in the other. We nod to each other, but he's unaware that I'm on the other side of the street. I tell you what happens next. I'm banged up for the umpteenth time, and she's at home with his sprog. And I know he's hissing her. And despite all that, I love her. I've got to change. Me and the missus are shopping, and I point out this guy, so full of H, he's a dead man walking, and she says, don't you know that was you when you lived on the other side of the street? Now that father, he came to us, and he was part of a group of fathers called Salford Dads, part of a wider project called Dadley Does It. You'll find write-ups at Nesta of their work. And together they decided that they need to support each other, and they set up a Saturday Dads and Kids Club. And the father came up to me one day and he said, Heather, I have to tell you that, you know, when we were at the children's centre on Saturday, I left the baby wipes in the children's centre. So don't tell the missus. I've told her that they were taken off the pram because we can't afford to buy any more this week. So we're washing the baby's bum with soap and water. Don't let her know. I said, right, okay. He said, I looked me right in the eye and said, because we are on our knees. And it must have taken him a lot in terms of pride to tell me, as a nurse, that that was the way the family was working. And it said a lot, I think, about our relationship that he was able to tell me that. And his relationship with his missus changed because his status in the community changed. He was no longer able to afford to take her to the Trafford Centre every night for tea, which is what he used to do. And he no longer kept a gun under his pillow while he slept next to her. And the kudos that she had by being his partner was lost. And their relationship became quite rocky. And it was no surprise that the support he got was not from me as a nurse, but from other fathers in the same position. So when his meter ran out one night and he knew that his family, because he adopted the boy that talked about in the poem, and he had a second boy, and he didn't want that family to wake up in a cold home. It was other fathers who gave him the 50p's to pay to fill the meter so that the children would be kept warm in winter. And this is what life is like for people in Salford. The Bishop of Salford, John Arnold, told Salford Poverty Truth Commission, poverty is a waste. It's a waste of lives, a waste of talents, a waste of dignity. People in poverty do not want handouts. They want a sense of dignity to be able to look after their own sustainable futures. The words that Salford people use to describe poverty are desperate, worthless, bailiffs, listen, exclusion, torment, debilitating, fear. But it's not only fear, it's shock, isn't it? Salford people remain shocked that if a parent is sanctioned, their child loses its free school meal. Is this how we should treat people in society today? Poverty Truth Commissions, and there are currently 6 of them across the country, are about local people and service leaders working together and finding solutions. So let me just give you one example from the city of Salford. Birth certificates are vital in helping homeless people to secure ID they need for benefits or housing. By listening and understanding this, Salford City Council agreed to waive its £11 charge for copy birth certificates for homeless people living in poverty who were born in the city of Salford. A member of the commission, a resident, then met Mayor Andy Burnham, and as a result he has asked all the councils in Greater Manchester to look now at whether they can do likewise. So sometimes the solutions are as cheap as an £11 birth certificate. So some of the policy questions that these are my ideas, but you'll have your own policy questions we might want to ponder today are, like those 6 Poverty Truth Commissions are doing right across the land, how can we harness the wisdom of people and communities and ask them what makes a good life and what gets in the way of it? How can we work in equal partnership with them to design changes in society that are needed? Social entrepreneur Hilary Cotton, in her 2018 book Radical Help, sets us a challenge. How can policy help us move on from managing dependence on services to building the capabilities of people? People don't like the word resilience. Nurses don't like the word resilience. We don't want to be resilient. We want to be capable and to be supported to be capable. How should we tackle welfare reform, as Hilary talks about, to move on from a bygone age designed by Beveridge? How should we help the DH and NHS England break out of siloed approaches to mental health and start offering integrated policy solutions? The greatest integration, I believe, is integrating with our communities. Now social prescribing has a toehold in primary care. How can policy help GPs and their teams to tackle social causes of emotional distress? Are radical economists like Gus O'Donnell, former head of the civil service, right when they say that we need to move on from using measures like gross domestic product as a measure of economic progress and instead use measures of well-being? The things that the ONS measure, for example, the Office of National Statistics, questions like, to what extent do you feel that things you do in your life are worthwhile? Because to his mind, a nation's well-being is a precondition to its economic success. And since the long-term plan wants to focus on prevention and the National Mental Health Commission for Early Years at University of Birmingham, of which I am a commissioner, calculates that the staff costs that we need to treat current levels of mental health are now unaffordable. Is this the point where we focus on prevention? And how do we afford the running costs, the double running costs of prevention and treatment together? And what of young people and children? Do they get a fair deal out of policy? So with me today are three speakers who will each give their views, about 10 minutes each. Kate Cornford, Gregor Henderson and Helen Gilbert. I'll introduce them as they come on, and after that I'll open the floor to questions. So first of all, I'd like to welcome Kate Cornford. She's a policy analyst of the Health Division for the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD.